Hello, ladies. It's Renee, host of the Welcome to Your Life podcast. Have you thought of recording your own podcast, but the thought of learning new technology was too frightening? I know exactly how you feel. That's how I felt until I found Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and it's free. You can record from your phone or your computer, and the creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Trust me, you will not regret it. You are listening to the award-winning Welcome to Your Life, Midlife Made Easier podcast. I am your host, certified empowerment coach and yoga teacher, Renee. WTYL is a lifestyle podcast for successful midlife women who feel burnt out from putting everyone else first and who wake up thinking there has to be more to life than this. My mission is to help you increase your self-confidence, self-love, and self-care so that you can reclaim your time, your energy, and live your life without frustration, anger, or overwhelm. If that sounds good, then let's get started. Hey everyone, I hope you are doing well. Today we're talking about toxic relationships. How to recognize if you are in one and then how to get out. You know, toxic relationships are not just found in your personal relationships. So it's not between you and your significant other or just between you and, say, a sibling or a parent. Toxic relationships can actually permeate every area of your life, including friendships and work. So what exactly is a toxic relationship? So the definition that I found stated that a toxic relationship is a relationship characterized by behaviors on the part of the toxic partner that are emotionally and not infrequently physically damaging to their partner. So your personal relationships are great if they support you and make you feel safe. But not all relationships are created equal. And some relationships cause more grief than they're worth. Now, there are times when we stay in bad relationships because we are afraid of being alone. So, whether you are taking a look after listening to today's show at your professional life or your private life, I want you to ask yourself this question. Is your relationship enhancing your life or making it more challenging? If it's making it more challenging, then you have some decisions to make. The human psyche is a funny creature. Even though we know that something's not good for us, we don't automatically cut it off. That goes with food, drugs, and relationships. So even though you know you're in a toxic relationship, it could be challenging and hard for you to leave it, especially if you're in midlife. If you've been in a relationship, in a marriage or in a long-term relationship for a long time, and you are a woman over 50, you might feel like this is it for you and you can't find anything better. But I want you to know that that is not the case. That you were meant for great things and you deserve great things. You know, even when we're in these relationships, we know that they're bad, but like everything else, there is a part of us that is hoping that somehow, by some miracle, that things will change. And we won't have to give up our paycheck if our toxic relationships are at work, or we won't have to give up the person that we love. Regardless of how much pain these toxic relationships cause us, losing our source of income or facing the world alone, even if it's temporary, can be very frightening. So I want you to understand that I know and understand where you're coming from. But today, we're going to talk primarily about the signs of toxicity in your personal life. But I did want to touch on how working in a toxic climate will affect you, and to give you some steps at the end of the podcast that will help you to produce a positive outcome for yourself. The reason I want to touch on negative or toxic relationships in the workplace is because we spend so much of our time at work, whether we're working from home, you know, like many of us are now, or going into an office still. And if you are working in an environment that is not supportive, it will destroy your productivity and also your ability to collaborate with your teammates. Basically, it just gives you the worst working environment ever. I have been in toxic working environments, and trust me when I tell you, I could not get out fast enough. So, what are the signs that you might be working in a toxic workplace? You might be surprised to know that research done by the Workplace Bullying Institute, I did not even know there was such an institute, but there is, found that 19% of workers report that they have been bullied at work, and that 72% of their fellow workers knew that it was happening. Your workplace might be toxic if you dread going into work, if you feel emotionally and physically drained at the end of the day, if your productivity is suffering and you're running out of sick and vacation days. You might be in a toxic work environment if there is a constant level of disrespect and lack of communication. If you feel that there is a lack of support and you're not sure if you can trust anyone, so you keep your feelings to yourself. Now, if you work in this kind of toxic environment for any period of time, but the longer that you work in this kind of environment, you might start to exhibit some physical symptoms such as sleepless nights, anxiety, or stress eating. So if you work in a toxic work environment and the atmosphere is so hostile that you feel unsafe, Listen, keep listening until the end of this episode, because I'm going to give you some tips to make your way out. Right now we're going to turn the tables just a little bit and talk about the signs of being in a toxic personal relationship. Now, you might have been in a toxic relationship, or you might know a sister or a cousin or a friend who is currently in one, and you can see the signs that this relationship is not good for them, but they might not be able to see it. So, if that is the case, please share this episode with them. My goal is to make sure that we're not only receiving information, but that we're sharing this information out to anyone and everyone that we know could benefit from it. So, signs that you may be in a toxic personal relationship are similar to those of the workplace symptoms. A consistent lack of trust. Do you trust your partner? And if you don't, is the relationship draining because of your lack of trust? And that can be the case, because if you don't trust someone that you're close to, then you don't have any peace. And if you have no peace, then you, having been in the situation, if you live in a household where there is no peace, it feels like you have worked 100 hours a week. Your body is tired, your mind is tired, and you just can't function. You may be compromising your values regularly. And when you're put in a position to live outside what you believe is important, your self-respect begins to suffer. Your partner is not supportive of your success. Now, I just had a client whose partner, who she felt would not be supportive of her success. She was making more money than him, and she did not want to tell him how much money she was making, or that she'd just been promoted. If you are living in a relationship where you're not able to share your successes with your significant other, then that's not healthy. Another thing that I want you to consider is your partner reliable? If you cannot count on your partner, that only brings more stress into your life, and stress building up over a significant amount of time could be very harmful physically. Maybe there's a lack of affection. So there's a lack of closeness between the two of you. And you might want to ask yourself, why is it that we no longer touch each other? You might feel like going anywhere else but home after work would be more relaxing. And what is worse than spending a stressful day at work, and then instead of deciding to go home, you go sit in a coffee shop alone? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to go home at the end of your day and relax and enjoy the evening? Because our home is supposed to be the place where we find solitude and peace. And if you're not finding it there, then you need to do some investigating. If you feel unsafe with your partner, I want you to understand that no relationship is worth your safety. And you know that old adage that love doesn't hurt? It's not just a cliche. If you are in love with someone and that person is causing you pain or unrest, whether it's physical or emotional, it's time to get out. So what do? If you answered yes to some or all of these symptoms, what do you do if you're working in a toxic work environment, or if you're working in an environment that is toxic at home? Well, the first thing I want you to consider is getting professional help, either through a therapist or a coach who would be able to help you to sit down and pinpoint exactly what's going on, so that you would have a clear picture of, exactly what's happening in your life, and you'd be able to create a plan accordingly. If you're at work, you want to start logging events, documenting emails, voicemails, and interactions with other employees or teammates. Documentation is very important if you're going to, take this to HR, or if you need to file a complaint with the EEOC, and that's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. You must have documentation or your complaint will go nowhere. The other thing is, as with everything that we do, we have to continually work on building or rebuilding our self-esteem and our self-confidence. So really taking a look at the activities in our lives that bring us joy and help us to become more self-confident and more self-reliant. Start an activity that will help you to relieve your stress. When I was in my toxic work environment, I started going to work out at night after work instead of eating, because I am an emotional eater. I was in an emotionally charged environment, which meant that I was eating all day long. So instead of stopping by a fast food chain on my way home, I stopped by the gym. And I didn't do anything, elaborate or very strenuous. I got on the treadmill and I walked for 30 minutes and listened to some good music, and that was it. But not only did it help me to break that cycle of emotional eating, then it took me to my next step, was to start planning my exit strategy. Some people, figure out this is not working for me, I'm out of here. And then there are those of us who say, but I can't leave because I have this bill due, or we've been together this long, or, I don't want the kids to grow up without a dad. We give ourselves a lot of excuses and we stay. But if you are not happy and you feel emotionally, and sometimes even, not especially, because emotional abuse can be just as devastating as physical abuse. So if you feel emotionally or physically abused, it's time to get out. And you need to start planning your exit strategy. And you can do that by doing our next step, which is creating your village. So you're going to find supportive friends, co-workers, or professional support, like I said, a therapist or a coach who will be able to comfort you and support you during this process. You do not have to do it alone. I really hope that you're not experiencing any of these symptoms and that your relationships are healthy, supportive, and a source of inspiration to you. But if they're not, it's time to step out of denial and save yourself. Save yourself. You know, there is really something about our generation in that we are, some of us, not all of us, waiting for someone to rescue us. And I blame it on all the fairy tales that we were told as kids. I didn't read any of those books, Cinderella, Snow White, any of those things to my girls when they were growing up. And I think that because of that, we're waiting for someone to come and rescue us from whatever problem or situation that we find ourselves in. But the truth of the matter is that we have to learn how to rescue ourselves. And the first step in doing that is to step out of denial and really take an honest look at what's happening in our lives. A healthy relationship should make your life easier. It should make it so that you are pursuing your best work, living your best life, pursuing your dreams and the goals that will make you happy. If your relationship is not doing that, then it's time for a change. Learn, connect, heal, and grow. Ladies, are you looking for a group of midlife women who are ready to support you, love you, and give you a little kick in the pants when you need it? Then join the Welcome to Your Life Midlife Made Easier Facebook group. Inside of this free group, you'll find additional trainings and resources from me, get your questions answered, and socialize with other midlife women on this crazy journey called life. Inside of the group, we turn midlife crisis into midlife triumph. Click the link in the show notes or head over to the Welcome to Your Life Midlife Made Easier Facebook page. Click on group and answer the 3 questions so you can join today. See you on the inside.